All right, welcome back to the show. My name is Ryan Morrison, and today we have Emefa Boamah. She is a trauma-informed life and business coach, breathwork facilitator, and embodiment guide for women and non-binary leaders. Drawing from her Ghanaian Ewe lineage, personal healing journey, and professional training, she helps clients reconnect with their bodies and lead from a place of wholeness. Welcome to the show, Emefa.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm super honored and delighted to be here today.
Awesome. Well, I'm super happy to have you here too. And, we had a great conversation yesterday. That's why I'm super sunburnt right now. Shout out to Bamboo. We will do a reading for them later as well as a sponsor of the podcast. But Emefa, you have such a rich history and there's so much that goes into your background and your journey. So I'd love to give you the opportunity to just introduce yourself, talk about your lineage, and then talk about how we got here today.
Thank you so much. I typically like to open all of my spaces with just like one breath to land into the body. So for those who are listening, if you can, I'm going to invite you to join me too. Just close your eyes for a second. Allow your feet to be firmly on the ground. We'll take one big collective breath in through the nose. Hold it for a second. And then blow it out gently, relaxing the shoulders.
There we go.
Yes. So as you said, my name is Emefa Boamah. I come from the Ewe tribe of Ghana, West Africa. And I always say that that's an important part of introducing who I am, because if it wasn't for the women that came before me, I wouldn't be here. I also come from a lineage of medicine women. So if Ghana hadn't been colonized, I would literally be in the village, tending to people, taking care of the shrine or the oracle. And I think that bleeds into or blends very beautifully into what I do in the world now. I have been in the States. This is also important to share. It's wild to me, 13 years. And I've been doing what I've been doing for about 3 years. So prior to that, I had a previous life where I worked in the hospitality industry. So I'll paint a picture based on the conversation we had yesterday. So I moved from Ghana to Baltimore, lived in Baltimore for a few years, worked in a hotel, moved to Texas to work with the Ritz-Carlton. I was in the event space for a very long time. I went by Jocelyn then. We'll get to the story. And then I worked for a boutique leadership academy called Stegan for about 4 years. And then 2020, when the world changed, mine changed in a very impactful way. So in November 2020, I got COVID, and it was really bad. I was out of work for 6 months. And if you've heard this story before, you're welcome for hearing it again.
It's a pretty wild story,
it really
right? So
is.
you had a near-death experience.
I did. So it's the week before Christmas. And prior to this, I say that I had a certain arrogance about my life, about my health, because I was actually training to go to fight amateur boxing. I was working out, I was eating well, I was not drinking. So I was like, okay, I'm sick. 2 weeks, I'll be fine. 3rd week, 4th week, 5th, 6th. And then my boss, it's like, I think we may need to put you on short-term disability. So I said, okay. So I went to the clinic to get tested so I can get an approval for that. And I had to do a simple fitness test. And I can remember the feeling in my body right now, 4 years after the fact. But I remember I had to do like this step up thing, and I did like 2 or 3 of them. My blood oxygen level dropped really low, and I ended up passing out very briefly. So they called an ambulance, took me to the hospital. And I remember asking my doctor, the person that was taking care of, I was like, can I drive to the emergency room? And she's like, no, sweetie, you cannot drive. That tells you how ambitious I was then, instead of just like accepting the help. So I go to the clinic. They keep me there for 3 or 4 days. And on one of the days, 50 Shades of Grey was playing on the screen to my right. I can see it. And I had written down all of like my passwords and everything to give to my sister, because there was some part of me that was just, I had given up because we had done everything and they still couldn't figure out what was happening with me. So I remember writing everything, putting it on my phone. And it was like I fell asleep and I opened my eyes and I'm on this field, which is wild because I don't really like football. My friends tell me it's because I was in Texas and they worship the Cowboys, so that makes sense. But I'm on this field and I meet this entity. And I said to the entity, I said, I feel like you're about to take me out of the game of life. If it's time for me to go, I'll go. I'm not going to fight you. I'll probably come back in a different way. I'll probably be a cat to a very rich lady, but that's beside the point. But I said that, and the entity said to me, it was like, okay, well, your purpose is to serve women. And I've always known that I was going to support women based on a little bit of like a lot of what's happened in my life. And I'll get to that in a second. So I was like, okay, cool. No, I don't need to know the entire play. I will leave. So I turned around to leave, and the entity was like, oh, there's one more thing. We want you to reclaim your name, Emefa. So before then, I'd mentioned that I went by Jocelyn, which when people meet me now, they're like, I don't think you're a Jocelyn. And that was very significant because that was like an outward expression of what was happening internally for me, that sometimes if I don't look at pictures or I don't meet people who know me as Jocelyn, it blows my mind that there was such a drastic shift in just who I was and who I had become. So the name wasn't just like outward. It was like a marked expression of what was happening internally. I should have asked questions, but I was like, okay, cool. MFI is easy. So I came out of that, and the next 3 months were probably some of the most difficult parts of my life because I went through everything Western to figure out what was happening with me with my health, and they really couldn't tell me what was wrong. So like I went broke trying, which is about the medical system, but that is how I got to do what I was doing. So I left that. Took 3 months off of work, had to go to physical therapy, went back to work. And then through the return to work, I just realized that there was no way I could keep doing what I was doing and still do what I was being called to step into. So I gave 3 months to my previous job, went to Ghana, saw my ancestors, asked them whether this is the path that they really want me to take. And there was a resounding yes. So I came back to America, took out my 401k. I don't know if I'll do that again. But
yeah. You sold your BMW too, right?
I did sell. Oh, I loved that BMW. I think it was one of the hybrid ones that had just come out. But yeah, I sold my BMW, sold some of my things from my apartment, and just left and went home without a job to come back to. Came back and then just launched the first part of my website.
And that was in 2021. Okay.
Yes. And then fast forward a year later, exactly in August 2022. And I don't think I've shared this before, but I had my first bout of clients that worked, and I was like refining my process, all of that. And then in 2022, August, everything that could go wrong, Ryan, went wrong. Like I was this close to being homeless. And I was telling you yesterday that I still have the eviction notices because it's wild for me to think that I was at that point. And on the outside, everything looked great. Like I had testimonials, I was seeing people, but it wasn't converting to revenue. And I talked to one of my mentors who's like my truth teller. And I said to him, like, I feel like I'm going to fold the business because I might as well just go back and work for someone. I'm broke. I don't have a place to stay. Can I stay in your house? But I was heading to a retreat that weekend. And she was like, no, just go to the retreat, see your best friend and come back. When you come back and you still want to fold, we can help you fold the business. I'm glad that she reminded me of that because I went on the retreat, had an experience with my ancestors, came back, and I shared this, that there was a certain level of devotion that I came back with because the chances of you figuring out or finding out what you're here to do for a lot of people is very slim. And I had a lived experience of what mine was. So it was a coming together moment of like, this is what I'm here to do, and I'm going to live my life in devotion to it. So whatever resources I need, whether it's training or my ancestors or support or clients, I usually just hand it over to the purpose and say, since you've chosen to express yourself through me, I'm going to need you to take care of me so I can do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I just recently made a post about the idea of fear versus faith. And the emotions of fear and faith are the same in the body, but the difference is the action that you take, right? Fear is stifling. It holds you back and you freeze. Whereas faith is, I'm going to lean into that through the devotion and the purpose that I believe that I have and go all in, right? And I think that's a lot of founders, every founder that I've ever known actually have had to make that decision at one point in their life to leave the cushy corporate job or even bypass it altogether and go all in on themselves. And that's a scary decision, right?
It really is.
I want to bring back more, have a deeper conversation about your upbringing in Ghana and how that's kind of shaped your worldview through your ancestors, but also how those experiences and those lessons that you're bringing from your heritage are informing your practice as a spiritual coach and as a professional development coach as well for women and women founders. So could we maybe, Ben, pull up the image of Ghana, and maybe you could show us where you're from as well?
So I'm from the Volta region, which is closer to the bottom, closer to the. So I'm from the place I come from is called Tegbi, so Tegbi, but right at the closest to the bottom, it's the Volta region.
Are we close?
Yes. So the western, it's a bit closer down.
A little more western.
Or you can just put in Volta region, Ghana, and then it'll probably pull it up a bit closer for you.
You want to search that up? How do you spell it?
Volta. There we go.
Just having fun with the picture-in-picture view.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's right there.
There we go. Awesome. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about your upbringing and how, because you told me too that the Western world and where you're from have very different views. You have the masculine, you have the masculine essence in the United States and how it's kind of like gung ho and go get what you want, and then the feminine essence from where you're from. So yeah, let's just dive into that a little bit and how it informs your practice and your business.
I always love looking at things from like archetypal. Sometimes it could be like it could be a bit reductive to think of it that way. So my family is from my matrilineally. I'm from the Awa tribe. I grew up in Accra though. So Accra is like, think of Accra as the main city, and then Volta region is part of the rural area. So growing up in Accra, I went to a Catholic school with its own complications. I went to a Methodist senior high school because that's very separate. And then my mom moved to the States when I was still a teenager. And it was like the responsibility was left on me to raise my sister and my brother, who's also older. So that moved me into adulthood earlier than I would have liked. And I promise it comes full circle to how I coach. So growing up, I was the kid in school that would always raise my hands to speak in the class or write on the board or read, or I was just that person. I also say that my mom, for the most part, sort of like trained me to be like a confident leadership person. It was just like, for me, it didn't compete. I was any other way. So growing up with that, and we grew up in a multi-generational household. So it was me, my mom, my grandmother, and my cousins. So for us, it was almost a matter of, my grandmother's house was where people would come to. And I would watch her, how she just treated people who came in. There was always food in our house. People would come in, and people who were having marital problems would come to her, and she would like mediate these conversations. And she was also like very well known in the church. So she was like a matriarch in the church as well. So I grew up Christian. And there was something about watching the way that she would work with people without necessarily shouting or screaming. But there was this way that she facilitated things that I was like, this is so cool. And my grandmother would always tell me, she was like, this is who you're meant to be, right? So no matter what I was doing around, I was also thought to be a boy. when my mom was pregnant with me, she thought I was going to be a boy. So they got everything for boys. And then I came out and I was like, surprise, I'm a girl. So for a very long time before I started developing as a girl, my nickname was Small Boy because everyone just thought I was a boy. So I think when I stepped into leadership positions, it made sense for people because I was a boy, or they thought I was a boy. So once I started becoming a girl, then it wasn't computing for people why I was the one like bullying boys. I wasn't bullying them. They were bullying someone and I was standing up for people. So people would bring their sons to my mom or to my grandma and be like, oh, your daughter did this. And my mom would be like, oh, I mean, what was your son doing? You know, like what was happening? And that part of standing up for people, being the one that spoke a lot in my in class, seeing my grandmother and how she facilitated conversations. And I also have quite a bit of sexual assault, physical, emotional growing up, which I think that's the dark side of growing up in a country that's mostly feminine, right? It's like there's the masculine part of it tends to overpower, and their only expression of power is like abuse, for want of a better expression, right? Because while it's mostly as an entity is feminine, the men we still have very patriarchal ways that men engage with women. So the level, and this is worldwide, but the number of people who experience sexual assault is very high, and that's the norm, not the exception. So I think combined with that and my experience of growing up with some part of poverty and then moving to America, when I moved to America, I was like, this is a land with a lot of opportunities. And I think most immigrants will identify with this because when you don't have something, you move. I come from a place where there were days I wasn't sure I would get food on the table and had to walk barefoot to fetch water. To come to a place where I have water in my faucet every day, I can go to a grocery store and buy what I need for $1. Right? To me, it was like an abundance of opportunity to do something with your life and be better. Before I had the near-death experience, I identified very much with the go nature of America because it got me what I wanted. It got me what I needed, right? Meritocracy, if you work hard, that was the thing. If you work hard, you go further in life. And that made a lot of sense to me. It also drew me very far away from my nature, which is moving slower, steadier, more rooted. And it was very speed-based. So I think once I experienced the near-death experience, I began to understand and make my way back to my roots. That's when I was able to look and be like, okay, if I take a step back, America as a whole, we reward you for speed. We reward you for climbing very, very high, very fast. You're rewarded for hard work, right? And hard work according to the rules that have been written. Ghana moves very slow. We take our time to get to things. So we're missing that edge of like getting things done when we want. So when you have a little bit of edge, you're able to get further in life. I believe, and that's like my whole thing, is like life is a beautiful integration of both, right? It's a spectrum. On some days you need to be more go. On some days you need to relax. So having that archetype, it makes it, it gives me a framework when I'm working with my clients that come to me, especially the high achieving, fast moving ones, who have built something that works for a version of them, and then something happens. Usually it's an illness, or they remember something about their childhood through therapy, or it's mostly these two things. There's very few of them that I've had near-death experience, but something happens that makes them remember a version of themselves that they've had to sacrifice to get where they are. So when they come to me, there's a recognition of, oh, while you have your experience, there's this theme of like, okay, you're coming from a place where you're tired and you're needing to rest, but we also don't want to abandon the doing part entirely. So how do we create the space for you to rest first and then integrate the wounded part of you that she left behind and the part that has got you here to get you where you want to go for the next evolution of your life and your business?
Absolutely. I mean, it's really important, I feel like, to connect back to yourself. And we talked about how that's the value of a coach, is that they can be a mirror to parts of you that are closed off from your perception, right? So they help you unlock more.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about those methodologies you've used different tactics, breath work, psychedelics, things like that. So talk more into the methodologies and maybe some of the transformations that you've seen happen through testimonial with your clients.
I actually sent out a testimonial this morning to my email list, and I think I have another one coming on Instagram, and I posted one this morning. So the three arms of I say that I'm like methodology agnostic. I have a bunch of tools, and I love learning. So I have a bunch of tools that I have in my toolbox that I share with people. Primarily, most of them are focused on embodiment, and I describe embodiment as existing through the 5 facets of your being. So your physical, energetic, while defining your physical is this body that we see. Energetic is the flow of your energy with other people through the chakra systems. Emotional is how you regulate your emotional body and your emotional intelligence. Mental is where the stories about who you are live and exist and how you move through the world. And spiritual is how do you connect to something that is bigger than you. It could be religion or not. It doesn't necessarily matter. It depends on the person. So those 5, how do you exist in those 5 things is what I call the embodied healership part of what I do. And then the embodied leadership part is how do you transfer that? So how do those relate to your business or your movements, your vocation? The physical for that is how the products, offerings, and services that you give to people or the place where you run your business from physically. The energetic is the flow of resources. So how is money, time, and people flowing through your business? The emotional is how do you feel about the business that you have and how do your clients feel after they've experienced your product or your service? The mental is the strategy part of what we do. So it's like how are you getting clients in? How are you marketing? How are you doing all that? That's where the traditional business plan of running a business lives. And then the spiritual is why does your business exist? What's the purpose behind making money? So what we do in embodied healership and leadership is map those two. See where there's congruence or not, and how do we create that? That's the umbrella of the movement of what I have. Now, if we break them down, I work with clients in one-on-one settings. I work with them in groups. The group one is coming up, that's in habit. And then I also work with them in psychedelic spaces. So the one-on-one and psychedelics are usually what I call the rites of passage, where we go through separation, liminality, integration. And what I find in all these 3 umbrellas is, first, when people come to me, whether they are aware that they're disconnected or not, the first thing we do is land in the body in this time and space. Embodiment, for a lot of people, think that you have to move from your mind into your physical body instantly. That's the reason why they're separated. So first, we understand why is there separation in the first place, right? Or what does the separation even feel like? And then how do we support you in safely landing into whichever facet is the most accessible? And again, because of the archetype of America, most of the women that come to me exist in their head a lot because that's what they've been rewarded for. So it's like getting the brain or the mind to recognize that, hey, there are other people at the table and you don't have to do this by yourself, which also brings a little bit of parts work. So that's the first part of what we do in our time together. It's just like recognizing that you have different bodies or different facets, and how do we get you present in all of them, not all at the same time, with the one that we can access the most easily. And then from that, once there's a felt sense of where they are, then we can start to look at their business, right? If they have a business or what they're working on, whatever it is, and then we map it. So that's like the 3-prong approach that I use. A lot of the words that my people use when they come to me, I was actually using ChatGPT for this, which, by the way, I love AI. People are like, wait, how do you love ancestors and how do you love AI? I'm like, they're probably speaking the same language in that they're timeless, right? But you just access or just discovering ways to work with them in this lifetime. But a lot of the things that women have said from working with me, or the big aha moments they have is, 1, the fact that you're telling me that, the fact that I'm recognizing that I don't have to move directly from my mind into my body as if being forced or should, is permission given in itself. Because then they have the opportunity to look, where am I, right? How do I make peace with where I am? And then through the eyes of curiosity, how do I find the rest? Instead of what society says you have to do it because that's what you're expected to do. So when they hear the term nervous system regulation, there are some people that are actively triggered by it. And there's some people that I just break it down. All we're trying to do is make sure all your parts have a say in the decision that you make moving forward. And that alone, I see the way that it changes the way that they hold themselves and the way they go through the world. And then for the people that get the access talking through the 5 facets of being for the business, they always say they're like, traditional business planning has never worked for me because it's like I'm being forced to write something or do something. I know my product, I know my business, but something about fitting into that framework makes it really hard for them. So they find it very accessible, and then they can start to build out the arms of what they want, right? So those are like the 2 big things I've heard women say. And yesterday I made a story. I finished a coaching package with a client, and I said, oh, POV, you thought you were getting a life and business coach, but what she got was a spiritual guide, an oracle, an intuitive business strategist. And then I think I wrote something like a seer. And also you got the life and business coach and a friend as well, because those are the arms of what women realize that they get from me, because almost every time they say that my coaching begins where most traditional coaches end, which is that we're not just trying to get somewhere. It's like, who do you have to be, right, to do what you need to do to have what you want to have? And I think that's like the superpower I bring to my coaches and to my clients and what they discover or realize through our work together.
Absolutely. It's awesome, right? It's a fully embodied approach to integrating your life and your business, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be a business woman to work with you, right? Because those different areas of embodiment go towards your career and other things too, outside of being a founder. But I know you love working with female founders, and so hopefully there are some listening. And we have a couple minutes left, so I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about the upcoming 5-week session, right? It's a workshop incubator. Yes. So Ben, could you pull up Emefa's website, and let's see, do we need to navigate to I think we're here, right?
Yes, this is the page. So one of the things that I didn't mention when I was talking, and we talked about this yesterday, is I believe that everything in this world has its own soul, its essence, its way of being in the world. So before I create anything, I sit with the soul of the thing. Now, inhabit is a word that has been living in my my space for years. So I ran a previous version of this, which was called More. And then this time around, when it came to be put out into the world, I said I wanted to become inhabit, just the concept of being, like I said, in your body in this time and space in the 5 facets. So I created this for space holders. When I say space holder, I'm talking about founders, coaches, healers, anyone really who holds space for other people. Because what I learned, especially after the election, is that most of us who are in this space are giving of ourselves to help regulate other people that we don't have a place to go to be tended to. And then some of them have also gone so far from why they started their business in the first place. So I created this for a place, I created this incubator for a place where we just talked about it. 1, come back into your body, surrounded by other women who are walking similar yet different paths with you. Then we orient towards your business or your movement or your career or where you are. The thing, I think of it as the movement, the thing that you're here to do. We orient towards that. That's the second module 2. Module 3, we bring it together. What is the synergy between the 2 of you or lack of it thereof? Module 4, I give them coaching. So everyone gets like hot seat coaching. And then I walk them through what they're working on, where they're feeling stuck. And then we work through that. And then we have a closing ceremony, which is module 5. In that module 5, we create a 30-day plan on how to integrate and execute everything that we've learned. So that starts May 6, 2025. We meet every Wednesday, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. For a live teaching. And then we have a Q&A at the end. And then they have access to play sheets and stuff that they can remain engaged in the portal and with the other women that are going to be in that space.
That's awesome. And the program is taking place at Bamboo Ann Arbor, right?
It's taking place online.
Online?
Yes, okay. Virtually. I will be recording it online. Currently, most of the people that I have are local to Michigan, to this area. And I have 4 more slots available. if I get everyone who's here, I would love to host them in person.
Right.
That would be the dream. But I also want to make it accessible for people who are not in Michigan that want to participate in it to have the opportunity to do so.
That's great.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll put the link in the description for everybody to take a look and to get in touch with you.
Yes, please.
And so they can get in touch on your website, right?
Yes.
And then follow you on Instagram.
Yes. Instagram, LinkedIn, and my website are the places where you can find me the most. But I love Instagram because it's more fun.
Absolutely.
But yes, you can find me at Instagram at I'm Emefa Boamah on Instagram. And then my website is emefaboamah.com.
Okay, perfect.
Yes,
Well, thank you so much. It's been awesome. And and we'll have you back again. There's so much we didn't get to talk about. So in the future, we'll talk about how you use AI and some of the Enneagram and astrology and things to orient your life and how you can unlock that for other people as well, to orient their schedules and to be their best self showing up in the spaces they show up. So just a little teaser for the next time. We have you back again soon, Emefa.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to share my life's work about my life with you and your audience. And thank you to the audience for listening, for giving us 30 minutes of their time. And I look forward to coming back and continue the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.